Says connecting. Are we live? Look at this. It looks like it. I think I am now live on YouTube. Sorry about that. I'm trying out OBS. I'll kind of back up because I think I was talking to myself for a little while there. Welcome. It's Sunday. It's me, Comic Crack. I had a comment a few weeks ago about potentially trying to up the quality of the videos in both content and also image quality. So with StreamYard, I can only go so high because I don't have a paid account. So I thought for this week I would try OBS to see if it makes it look any better, how easy it is to use, and I would love to see it. I'm going to turn down the volume. Hey, look at that. I am live on the YouTube. Looks like that's worked, so I am there. I don't know if the quality is better or worse. I guess that's something that people can tell me in the comments when they watch this back to let me know how it is. Is it worth it? Either way is easy. OBS is pretty easy to use for me at this point. I say that hesitantly. StreamYard is incredibly easy, but we'll see how this goes this week. Had a chat with Rasa this afternoon over on her channel for a couple of hours. It was good to see her again. We talked some books, we talked some movies, we talked some TV. We just kind of hung out and shot the shit as we usually do. It's one of those things sometimes we end up starting to talk before someone hits the go live button. Sometimes this week felt like we didn't even really need to go live. We were just kind of having a discussion, just kind of hanging out and chatting. But if you want to go and check that out, please feel free to do that. This coming weekend, we won't be having a chat on Sunday. We might schedule something for Friday or Saturday instead, but we'll keep you posted, and it'll be on my channel this coming week. Sunday, we're having my daughter's birthday party. Her birthday is in November. We waited a couple of months to try to have a party with her friends. Christmas time, obviously, is a little chaotic for everybody, so waiting a little bit, so that happens this Sunday. You'll notice on my channel this week, I posted a video. I don't know how many of you have braved it and watched it, but I did post a video on a noise group, CCCC, Japanese noise group, from a tape called Kingdom of Noise. Oh, hello, look at this. There's chat popping up here. The Steam on Twitch is just a tad ahead of the YouTube feed. Hello, Scott Connor, how are you? It's okay on my phone, not great on my TV. Do you normally watch me on the TV, Colin, or do you normally watch on phone? There's probably some tweaking I can do with OBS as well to heighten the quality. I personally don't think that my quality is too bad when I use StreamYard, but that's just me. I figured I'd give it a shot. And there is a bit of a delay as well, too. I think I have a 30-second delay on OBS that's kind of automatic. I've used that in the past just to allow my computer time to kind of upload all the information. So hopefully the stream on the other end goes that much smoother with that kind of 30-second buffer. So I'm going to be responding to chats well after you've typed them. So I'll try to keep up. My son and I watched this Kingdom of Noise. I had it on tape years ago. I transferred a whole bunch of my tapes to the computer and had some of the files. I found some files recently on a external hard drive that I have. Kingdom of Noise is kind of this, infamous, one of the infamous noise compilation tapes of a bunch of great, I think they're all Japanese bands. I'm trying to think of who's on there. I'm pretty sure it's all Japanese acts, noise acts. So, of course, the heavy hitters like Merzbow and Masana, Incapacitants are on there. CCCC, is Pain Jerk on there. A couple of other people are on there. There was a couple of names I didn't recognize either, which is why I hesitate to say that they were all Japanese. Fantastic tape. really, really great performances. But the CCC really hit the mark for the both of us. Visually, it was incredible. I find their noise very, very immersive in a completely different way from acts like Merzbow. It has this different quality to it that really sticks with me. That I really, really enjoy. They've got a bunch of albums. I of course can't remember the name of the biggest hit. Let me just look here. The one that kind of I'm most familiar with myself. Music. It is called Love and Noise, and it's 3 pieces on it. The last one being, I think, about 30 to 40 minutes long. And if any of this stuff, I know that it's a pretty small group of people that are into that. I totally respect that. But if you are into that stuff, that album is well worth your time. They really bring something different to it. So thanks for those of you that did watch that video. I don't imagine stuff like that is going to get any sort of like copyright hit or something. So I'm pretty sure it's probably safe to be on. But obviously, if the artists themselves want me to pull it down, of course I will pull it down. Shout out to Daryl D as well, who checked it out and posted a comment. I love to see that kind of stuff. People stepping outside of zones in any sort of art that they might not be familiar with. So that's amazing. If you follow Daryl on Instagram, he got a picture with Jay Dilla's mom. I don't know when it was from. I don't remember if it said in the comment, but a pretty amazing picture there. So what else happened this week? A couple of politics things I did watch. I was talking about the band CCCC there, Dan Ellison. Hello, how are you? Japanese noise band. One of the performers, one of the main performers, this woman whose name I'm blanking on, used to be an adult film star. She then started incorporating bondage into their performances and things like that. And I think to this day, I think she still performs, maybe doing some solo stuff. And I think some other members of that band went on to form Astro, possibly, who are still around, and I think they played some of the festival stuff that was happening during the pandemic, the online stuff I was participating and just kind of watching and hanging out in chat rooms. So Piers Morgan did an incredible interview with John Mearsheimer. I am so not a fan of Piers Morgan whatsoever. I think he's a pretty big fucking tool. I will say, though, the guests that he's had on his show have been pretty exceptional lately. Mearsheimer, I'm a big fan of Mearsheimer. I like listening to him talk. It was also really nice to have a conversation where a guy like Piers Morgan, it really is like daytime TV kind of talk show mode where it's about bulldozing someone. It's about trying to get them flustered. Mearsheimer just doesn't get flustered. He gets interrupted a whole bunch of times by Piers. He keeps his cool. He does a really good job of kind of stating his opinion on stuff and also stating, like, this is just my opinion. And yes, we're just going to disagree on that. Like, it was really nice to see someone on a show like that that's not going to be phased, that's not going to want to play those stupid fucking games that some of these idiots want to play on these kind of shows, and actually get to talk to an audience that might not know about him. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that's often kind of left out of some of these conversations. When people go on these shows and people say you shouldn't be on those shows because of the host, because of whatever, I think the thing that's always forgotten is that that's an audience that needs to hear some of these perspectives. So yeah, of course it's not ideal potentially for someone to want to go on Piers Morgan. The fact of the matter is he does have an audience, and the fact of the matter is I'm curious about the percentage of that audience that would have heard of Mearsheimer before that. I would gamble that it's a smaller percentage, so I think that's really great that he went and did that. So more power to him. I would recommend listening to that conversation. They disagree on quite a lot of things, but honestly, I think it's worth your time. Congratulations to George Galloway, I think is his name, in the UK for winning his little election there. That's some really entertaining stuff that's been going on overseas. That's really been great to listen to. Again, what little I know about him has been pretty positive. I do know that there's some stuff. Novara Media did a really nice kind of 20-minute piece on Galloway, the pros and cons of him and his history in politics. He's been very consistent on his stance on Israel and Gaza throughout his political career. So there's footage from like the 90s where he's saying the exact same thing that he's saying now. So that was also really interesting, and seeing the response to that overseas, and what Rishi Sunak has been saying publicly, which is fucking absolutely bonkers, some of the things he was saying. Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the politics side of stuff that I've been paying attention to this week. I actually read quite a bit more in the past couple of days than I have throughout the past couple of weeks, just because my focus has been really into politics. And I promise that this Sunday chat will not end up as just a politics stream. It won't. I just don't want to go down that road. But I do feel like some of these things do need to be discussed, and I do want to point you in the direction of conversations that I think are pretty relevant to some of the things that are going on in the world, and hopefully point you to some names that you might not be familiar with. So that's it for that. There's always more to say on that end, but I'll cut it out. I'll cut it there. So I ended up reading quite a bit this week. I went to get my meager pull list from Galaxy Comics and from 204 Comics this afternoon. Only a few books, but quality books. There was a lot of really good reads. Oddfellow's Thoughts is back. He did another video where he talked about his pull list, and then he did about a half an hour, 40-minute video where he reviewed the books he's reading. So again, if you don't know Oddfellow's Thoughts, go and subscribe to his channel and check those out and support the guy. Colin is saying, always on TV, but I keep my phone next to me for the chat. Yeah, that makes sense. And then Scott, I usually watch on the PC, but watching on the phone right now. So, one of the books that is pretty consistent for me, and it's an issue like this specifically that really makes me excited about this duo. This is Rare Flavors issue number 4. This is Ram V and Philippe Andrade, the team behind Layla Starr, The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. This whole series has been really great. I've really loved it. This issue specifically, I think, really brings it to a level again of where I'm very curious where this story is going to go. Our main documentary filmmaker, our main filmmaker character, has now, at the end of last issue, is now fully aware of who his subject is and the fact that his subject eats people, and he's trying to come to terms and like, what the fuck are you doing? You've ruined all this, and he's really going through this crisis and freaking out about it, while our god, demon, deity, whatever you want to call him, is kind of explaining himself. We get a bit of a flashback where he got captured, and the documentarian filmmaker came and saved him. And it just kind of goes from there. And as usual, we get a history on a recipe. In this one is dal fry, Daba style. Lefty, how you doing, Lefty? I see you popping in there. I love how he uses the recipes to kind of build on the story itself that's happening, whether it's a focus on one specific person who has mastered a recipe and brought it to the heights and appreciation and the level that it's appreciated by a wide group of people. That dedication to one specific thing is something I think about a lot when it comes to anything, whether that's a talent at music, whether that's painting, whether that's working in a welding shop, whether that's working on heavy machinery, whatever it happens to be, that dedication to one thing and kind of mastering it to a level where you're kind of the person that's turned to when that stuff is needed, I think is really interesting. And using that here, they talk about this recipe and the history of dal and what you have to do to the lentils And it's just it blends in so nicely with the story that he's telling about himself, and how he came to kind of be where he is in our current story. Uh, really nice stuff. The art is really beautiful. I'm very much intrigued with this story. Uh, yeah, I hesitate to say anything more past kind of the halfway mark here. There is a little bit of a surprise ish at the end. It's not a huge surprise, but it really kind of ups the level of like, where's this going to go from here? You know, there's only so long I think that you can play that mystery element where, you know, like the Three's Company, Mr. Roper thinks that Jack is having it on with both the women, and of course he's wrong, and you're only going to play, you can play that out only for so long before it becomes really dull. Kind of hiding who he truly is from this documentarian, I think, could only play so long. So I'm glad that it came to kind of like a head and a resolution here. Very curious where that series is going to go. I'm loving it. It's one that even if you don't want to pick up single issues, I think like Layla Starr, I think it's one that you can pick up in the trade. I'm hopeful that they do at least one more mini-series together, because it would be really nice to have kind of an oversized hardcover collection of all the stories that they've done together. I think that would be a real nice package. Layla Starr and this one seem to fit in the same kind of world. I was saying to Rasa this afternoon that I might not be as experienced with Ram V. I might not really like his Swamp Thing run. I thought it really got tired pretty quick, even though I stuck with it. It did end up losing me. I'm not a huge Ram V reader, so I don't know all of his work. I know he's working now currently, I think, on Detective Comics, isn't it? Or is it just Batman? I don't remember which one, but I know he's working in DC right now. This is the stuff that excites me more. I'm not really interested in checking out that work. I'm more interested in this kind of thing. So, a hit. It's going to be up there with one of my favorite reads of the year, for sure. Which is why I've got the book, so I can be reminded of that, because we're still early in the year. Firefly, The Fall Guys. This is issue number 5 of this mini-series with a Francavilla cover here. Sam Humphries writing, Jordi Perez, and then Francesco Segala on colors there. This one has been so up and down. I'm glad to report that this issue was very much an up. I really like this issue. We're coming to a head with things. For those of you who don't care about Firefly whatsoever, this won't interest you. But for those of you out there who are fans of like Serenity and Firefly, this is a really good mini-series. Yes, there's a bit, if this is your first time reading a Serenity or Firefly comic, there is a huge kind of jump that you're going to have to make. There's a lot of things that are happening here that you need to kind of read previous stuff. So I don't think that this is necessarily a book for first-time readers to the Serenity and Firefly comic world to jump in on. But if you do know what's kind of going on and you're sort of hot and cold about picking some of these up, I'd suggest grabbing this one. So we have the attempted assassination of a political figure that's being pinned on the Serenity crew. It's starting to kind of unveil itself. We're starting in this issue to get a little bit of insight into potentially Zoe's personal experience with this politician, and Malcolm Reynolds, the ex-captain, he's not the captain anymore, is kind of talking to her about it, and she basically says, I had a whole other life before we kind of got partnered up in the war, and so she's really hinting at some potentially horrible shit that she did. And they've done that a couple of times throughout Firefly, tackling Zoe's past in the military. I find it really engaging. I'm really curious. We get sort of left off with, is Zoe actually going to be the one that's going to now take another attempt at assassinating this politician? Like, it's really left on a good point of, like, I actually don't know how it's going to wrap up. So I really enjoyed this issue. I think that part of my enjoyment this week is being kind of, because I haven't been reading a ton lately, I really had the urge to read comics this week. So I think that also helped with reading everything and really just taking time to kind of calm my fucking mind and not pay attention to the other stuff. It was a nice little reprieve, so I know that that played a part in it. I wish there was a comprehensive book on Francovilla's entire career. Yeah, I mean, a hardcover collection of just even the covers that he's done, I think would be pretty great with some history in it and stuff. I dig his covers rather. Was it Black Beetle or something? What the fuck was that book that he did? I remember I had it and I read it and I think I sold it almost like pretty damn quick. I personally don't know if he has the ability to hold an entire comic, but I do love his style and I do love his covers, no doubt about it. Let's go to, this is another quick one. This is Godzilla, War for Humanity. This is issue number 4 as well. Yeah, the camera doesn't even seem to be focusing too well there, does it? Let's see. Come on. Come on, baby. Yeah, anyway. We'll see. Maybe we don't do OBS going forward, but whatever. It was worth a shot. It feels like it's not focusing like it does when I do the other streams. I know I've also changed the lighting in here as well too, but this should be giving enough output to get us this nice front lighting. Andrew McLean, who did Headlopper, so much fun. This series is so much fun. The art is just a blast. The story is passable. There's nothing mind-blowing going on, but honestly, the art is just a blast. We have our main kind of kaiju here, or our new kaiju, that is kind of poisoning all the other kaiju and kind of turning them evil. So it's now onto Godzilla to kind of, as usual, save humanity and destroy this monster. Really great art. I mean, look at these pages, man. If you can tell them apart from the backdrop that I have in this video, everything sort of starts blurring together, but it's really just a fun book to flip through. It's a very, very quick read. There's not much going on outside of that. We have a mother-daughter relationship in this one that seems to be the kind of human drive behind the kaiju story, but getting it just for the art, pure and simple. So there you go. That's IDW, number 4. Space Usagi, the final issue in this 3-part miniseries. I loved this book. Does it need to take place in space? Fuck no, not at all. I find it a little strange that he decided to take a story to outer space, but whatever. I think that what it does retain is that core enjoyment of a Usagi Yojimbo story. I really, really like this one. I think I like this one more than kind of how the main title wrapped up that 5-parter. I think this one is going to stick with me a little longer. I just thought it was a really succinct storytelling. The characters were interesting. The little twists and turns that happened through it, I think, were really interesting. Something I hadn't noticed before, and it makes me want to go back and look at more of his stuff. I realized that I never really pay attention too much to some of Stan Sakai's backgrounds, because there was one background specifically where we pull back and see a cliff. Let me see. So it starts on this page. So if you're reading Space Usagi and you haven't read the 3rd issue, the panels that I'm about to show are going to show a couple of spoilers. So fair warning if you don't want to. Gore Vidal, hello, evening. I didn't read any comics last week. Been reading Russian short stories. Amazing, Gore. I still haven't checked out your BookTube channel, Gore. I really should. I really need to check it out. You'll be talking about stuff that I have zero knowledge of, so that excites me as well too. That makes me want to check it out even more. So fair warning, I'm going to show you some stuff that is going to have a bit of spoilers. So it starts kind of on the bottom of this page, these 3 panels. And just looking at, and again, I apologize that this isn't focusing, or at least it doesn't look like it from my end. There's just a different kind of quality to some of the line work making up the cliffs. And where it really stood out to me was in this elongated panel here. Beautiful, like so beautiful that I went back through the book to start looking at more of the backgrounds within this one. None of them are quite as gorgeous as this one. Like the colors work really well together. The details, the line work on the different layers, I think work really nicely. It's just got something that I just don't think I've noticed with Stan Sakai in the past, and it makes me kind of even more excited to dig more into his work, and really look at it a little differently than I had. Trust me, in person, it really is. It really is very nice. It's not that it's overly complex or anything, but there's just a really nice touch to all of it. And even these clouds, there's just a nice touch to the line work in there. So I thought this was a great issue. I thought that these 3 issues were really just fun. Do I want to read another 100 issues of Space Usagi? Not on your life. I'd rather just read the regular series. But for a little kind of side event or whatever his idea is with this, those of you that know him probably know a lot more about where this idea came from than I do. I think it's a great read. So another one I would recommend. And that's a good one that even if you haven't read Usagi, even though we all talk about the same thing, it doesn't really matter where you jump in with Usagi Jimbo. You're going to get a story that you can kind of wrap your head around. So, yeah. New TMNT Ronin book drops this week. Oh, amazing. Rasa was talking about some TMNT stuff on the stream this afternoon, and when I went to my comic shop, Galaxy, to pick up my books, there was a TMNT source book on the wall in the racks. Very, very thick, and kind of like the who's who of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles world, where it was just text, images of characters and history. It was actually, I kind of regret leaving it there. It was only, I say only because of how thick it was. It was only $8 US. It was comic size, but it was probably like 3 times the thickness of a regular comic, maybe even 4 times. It was a doozy. I kind of regret not getting it. I might pick it up next week to give it a shot. Curious. Scott says, Gorvidel, are you taking your time with those, or are you rushing through them? Evening, Scott. That's hilarious. What do we got next? Kaya is back after a bit of a hiatus. That is the 4th Space Usagi series. Oh, good info there, Scott. Thank you for that. There's a bit of a hiatus on this. Rasa and I kind of said the same thing, that it did take me a couple of pages to remember where we left off. Oh, you bought the source book, Gorvidal. Yeah, I haven't bought it yet. I'm going to go back, I think, and pick it up. It looked really interesting and kind of a good way to kind of catch myself up on some stuff, because there's so much of those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff that I have just completely missed. So I think that kind of stuff is fun, to be honest, so I may grab it. That said, it only took me a couple of pages to kind of be reminded. Rasa and we were both saying today that this hasn't, the past couple of issues haven't excited us as much as kind of those early issues have. But I would say for myself personally that I still really, really like this book, and I have no intention of jumping off of it. I feel like it's starting to hit a rhythm now, and I'm curious to see where this story goes. This storyline specifically right here, they've been sent to find the princess of a guy who has a ship. They're trying to get on this ship to kind of continue their mission. They have this little, if you find her and bring her, I'll take you on my ship and you can kind of carry on. So she's kind of part of this resistance, sort of resistance type of force. They're in control. They're kind of taking care of this water, this fountain, which looks like it has some rejuvenating powers to it. So she's part of this group that's taking part of that. We have our main characters being blindfolded and sent off. This kind of irritated me for a second when I turned the page and saw just black with text. Now, when I turned the page and saw the reveal where we had a complete change of colors, a complete change of everything, I think it did its job. I typically, I'm not the biggest fan of those kind of things. I always end up seeing them as a little bit of like a cheap way to not draw a couple of pages. But I also am willing to give the benefit that, hey, it is about the transition. It is about, it fits. It's not like it's completely out of space. But I really like this issue. Absolutely, I'm not as excited about this book as I was when I was first starting to read it, but I still really dig it. The other thing that kind of stood out to us, I was pointing it out to her, and it looked the same in her issue. Again, it might not show up on the stream. There's one page here where we go back to the robot that the coloring looks like it's changed and it looks like it's fuzzy. Even some of the text that the robot is saying, it looks fuzzy. It's not as crisp as it usually is. So I don't know if that was, I'm assuming because of the text side of it, that it was maybe an error. But yeah, I don't know. Or if they were trying to kind of change the mood from one page to the next. I don't know. But yeah, something kind of goofy going on there. The other good thing about this book, which I will sing its praises till the end of time, this is the inside back cover where you're still getting comic. So zero, count them, 0 ads in this motherfucker. Not even for other image books. The only thing you get is the back cover here. But so it's from cover to cover comics, which is really great. Oh, my son just saw Dune Part 2, and he said it's way better than the first. He wasn't the biggest fan of the first part of the new Dune two-parter, but he's saying that he loved the second one. So that's Kaya. The Sickness issue number 4 is out, and I'm very happy to report that this is a great issue. I feel much clearer. I still have questions, no doubt about it. I think I'm probably going to have questions throughout the entire series, but I do feel like I have a much more firm footing into the story and what's going on. I don't know what happened. I don't know if taking a bit of time away from it allowed some things to click when I started reading this. They also do a nice job on the, oops, that's the front cover, on the back cover of kind of distinguishing both stories. So we have two main characters, Daniel, and his timeline is 1945, and then George, and his story is taking place in 1955. I say timeline because there's a section in here where it appears that the timelines might be lining up or interweaving a little bit, and I don't quite know. That's where a lot of my questions are, but I think that specifically is the storytelling. That's just how they're doing it. There is one little mistake in here that really took me out of it for a minute. George, who's in the 1955 timeline, he's really digging into this research, looking into these people who are hallucinating and committing these horrible acts and things. And he's doing a lot of research, and he has these papers all over the table. He comes home. He's missed a date with his wife. His wife isn't upset. She's like, honestly, it was more for you than it was for me. You're way too into this stuff. And what does she say? I wanted it for you since this Chicago trial, since the Goodson tragedy. You've hardly been home. And don't think I don't know where you went after the matinee. You're nose deep in this. If anyone else found these notes and scribbles, they'd think you were the damn Zodiac killer. So Zodiac Killer took place in like 1967, 68, or 69, and his timeline is 1955. So I don't know if that was a mistake on the writing or if that was kind of like a little bit of a Easter egg for there's something going on with the timelines here, because again, later in the book, it really feels like there's a alignment with the two different time periods. And as usual, Jenna Cha delivers some goddamn outstanding pages. In our 1945 timeline with Daniel, his friends, he's snapped, and he's seeing people following him. He's seeing people's faces melting. He's seeing creatures coming out of the ground. He's hallucinating a whole bunch of shit. So he attacked another kid. His friends are trying to actually help him in a very kind of twisted way. They're saying that they believe him, that yes, we do believe that there's someone following you. We do believe that you're seeing people. So what we're going to do is we're going to hang out with you, and when you see this person, you tell us, because we've got these bats and we're going to go beat the shit out of them. So in their own kind of weird way, they are actually trying to, it feels like they're legitimately trying to help their friend, which is kind of touching, because he's really going through some shit. So he eventually sees this guy that's following him, or that he says is following him. One of his hallucinations makes an appearance, and as they draw him closer, we're going back to the other timeline with our husband and wife duo. The husband now has his head back, and those are his eyes as he's looking at his wife upside down. And we get this incredible page of his face cut with these different eyes, matched with Daniel seeing this hallucination that he's now really close to, closer than I think he's ever potentially been to it. Amazing, amazing stuff. And then we get this page as well too. So this is the stuff where I say that it feels like the timelines are kind of lining up or sort of overlapping. That's pretty interesting. But Janet Shaw just continues to kill it on this book. I'm very curious. It's a hefty read. There's no doubt about it. It's wordy as shit. There's just no way around it. I find it, in a case like this, I don't find it horrible so far, but it is a lot to absorb, and especially when the story itself is pretty complex, like this has been so far, or at least the storytelling. It is one where you do have to have patience with it, because we're in issue 4 already, and now I'm feeling like I've really got a grasp of this world. So this isn't something where you're going to get this immediate satisfaction in issue number 1. I think that it takes a little bit of work, which I'm down for. I'm down for the whole series, so I'll be coming back for it. I think now they're in a bit of a hiatus, because they were talking about doing a bunch of hiatuses throughout this. It's also nice to see that issue number 1 is now on its 3rd printing, which is pretty fucking incredible for Uncivilized Books. And then they have some of the covers for the other issues, and then we get the covers for issue number 5 there as well too. So I'm really happy that this is doing well for them. That's great. It's well deserved. Let's see. What did I miss here? Scott, you still haven't seen the first part of Dune. Okay, I'd recommend it. It's a hell of a movie, although I saw it in the theater. I don't know how well it would play at home, although with people's stereos and TVs these days, probably just as good. I remember you being apprehensive with earlier sickness issues. Absolutely. I was a little, because I was really excited about it at first, and then 2 or 3 issues into it, I was a little trepidatious, because it was just really not giving me enough answers to want to keep me coming back. Her art was the kind of main draw, and just I feel like I've talked about the sickness so much that I'm really committed to it, so I can't possibly let it go at this point. Yeah. Hello, Sleepy Reader. Your Epic G-Man show. Oh, is that when you were live there a week or 2 ago there, Gore? On Garage Geek, isn't that his name? Garage Geek? Let's see, what else did I miss? Damien, I was surprised most of the panel stayed behind. Enjoyed it, though. Scott punned me in the comments. You were probably coming from a different side of comics and reading than they were used to. Oh, is this a new thing? This sounds like maybe it was a little bit of a round table where you had some differing opinions. Uncivilized Books puts out The Sickness. I'm glad to hear your thoughts. I bought number 1 and read it, but was on the fence about it if I wanted to keep going. I bought the others, but haven't read any besides 1 yet. Yeah, and honestly, Dan, like, I'd say give it a, if there was enough in number 1 to have you get those other ones, I'd say give it a shot, but be patient with it. And also realize that everybody's going to have a different reading experience. I just might not have picked up on some things that were glaringly obvious to a lot of other people. I'm not that smart all the time. And then last, for the things that I read this week, and then I got just two magazines to show you that I picked up at 204 Comics today that were in the $2 bins. Gore was live yesterday. Oh shit, Gore, you were live on your channel. Wow. I read Lieutenant Blueberry, book number 2 from the Dargo series. This is Thunder in the West. This continues on from Fort Navajo, which was book number 1. There's 2 other books in this Lieutenant Blueberry chapter, I guess, that Dargo put out back in 77, 78. I've been looking online to see if I can maybe score the other 2 copies. They're expensive as shit. Shock and surprise. This is a really easy read. I enjoy reading this stuff again. Russ and I were talking about we're probably going to start reading Blueberry together again. So I'm going to look on my shelves for what my next earliest volume is. And hopefully once a week we can do a little bit of a Blueberry chat. I'm kind of wanting to take my time with these. I'm not in it now to kind of rush through it. That excitement of having this stuff has really died down over the years. So I feel like I'm at a point where I can really just sit and enjoy it without having to worry about missing issues and jumping on stuff. But that said, one of my missions for this year, like with the Scoiton stuff at the end of the year last year, I think my mission this year is going to be to save up and splurge to get the other 2 books because, like I said, when I have seen them online, they're pretty goddamn pricey. It's incredible to see this early Mobius or Jean Giraud stuff. His style is quite a bit different from what we know him, but honestly, it's even quite a bit different from what eventually the Blueberry book turns into. Now, I know that part of that is with the printing of this book. Everything is pretty dark in here. There's no doubt about it. So that has something to do with the quality of the art on display here. But there's these moments that are really Mobius or Jean Giraud, but there's a lot of moments where it just kind of doesn't look like him. You know what I mean? So, ooh, there's a link there. I'm just going to right-click that so I can open it and pause it. Pause. There we go. TM Nerdy. Thank you for that, Damien. That's great. Other than that, like, nothing much to report about this story. It's pretty solid storytelling. It is of an era, and I accept that because there's lots of Indians this, Indians that. There's actual indigenous people saying "ugh" when they speak. So there's those things that are just part of the time. I don't hold that against anybody. It does make it a little difficult to read at times. I have to admit some of that stuff really stands out to me and irritates me, but not to the degree where I feel like I can't read it anymore, where it becomes too distracting. It's just that little bit of distracting that it's just the time period. There's nothing you can do about it, right? But it is also interesting seeing Blueberry starting to develop as just a character and how he was written. You're starting to get a look into kind of what he becomes. His rebellious nature is there right from the beginning. Yeah, it's just really nice storytelling. He's trying to do the good thing. He also understands that even doing the good thing, there are going to be some people that are, especially at this time, that are going to get killed. But he's still willing to try to go that extra mile. So it's good shit, man. So I'm hopeful that I can get. I'm hopeful that at some point I can find the other 2 volumes of that one. I'll just catch up on the chat here. This reminds me, when is the new My Favorite Thing is Monsters book coming out? Yeah, Colin is saying May. That sounds about right from what I remember. I've got a bunch of stuff on pre-order, actually. Oh man, that blueberry. Yeah, Dan, it's good stuff. I was on the Comic Book G Spots channel yesterday. Nice panel discussion. It was a question and answer session. It was fun. That's great, Gore. I'll definitely watch that. I'm glad that you were able to make an appearance and hopefully bring a different perspective to people. That's the link to the 3-hour show Gore was on Saturday. It's a crying shame that the entire Blueberry series is not kept in print. Yeah, absolutely. Agreed, Scott. Very frustrating. Yeah, I have the same approach with Blueberry. I have all 5 of those graffiti design art hardcovers. Oh, shit. But have been kind of savoring them slowly rather than tearing through them. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go. 420, how are you? Wiccan Find. In recent years, there was a live-action Blueberry movie. Was actually decent. Really, hey? That's incredible. Really live action. I assume it didn't make it to North America. Was a tad surprised, but in a good way, that Dark Horse is finally getting around to putting out another book in their Mobius Library series. Oh, which book? Yeah, because they had that interview one, but I think that interview one is probably a year or two old at this point, isn't it, Damien? I think that one's been around for a while. So that's what I read. As I love to do. It's called Renegade. Yes, a more recent book titled Major. Oh, okay. Shit, man. I'll have to keep an eye out for that. So at 204 Comics, they've always got the cheap bins. I didn't spend a lot of time digging through them this time because there's a lot of stuff that I've seen a million times. They did have a new stockpile of magazines, and I picked up 2 of them because they were $2 a piece. I've read the first story in number 2 here, but it's the battle action from, what is this, Rebellion Comics. So Garth Ennis, Chris Burnham doing the art on a story here, Dan Abnett and Phil Winslade working on the other story. So an old UK comic from, I don't know, I'm assuming 60s and 70s, I'm guessing, is my guess, and kind of revisiting some of the characters. It's also cool when they'll have a story. Here's the Burnham and Garth, the Garth Ennis story. They'll have the story, and then at the end, they'll do a little history of the characters. So this Hot Wheels, they'll do a little history and show some samples of the art from the original stories, and just tell you just a little bit of information about the characters and where they appeared and their history and stuff. So I think that's a really nice little touch to have that included. So I read this first story, and I dug it. I'm not a huge War Comics fan, but I know that if somebody's going to have an interesting take on it, I know that that's probably going to come from the UK. Now, I do understand that this isn't specifically UK creators or anything. I just had some curiosity and some hopes that there would be something interesting about these. And we'll see. And here's a little peek at the second story there. It's no Charlie's War, I'll give it that. Which is another book I really got to get my hands on some more. And then I also picked up number 3. They only had numbers 2 and 3 in the bins. No number 1. They had more copies of each of these as well, too. It was also interesting to see they had a whole bunch of the Black Label magazine stuff in those bins for $2 a piece. And some of them I could swear they hadn't come out too long ago, so that stuff is really starting to find a home in these cheap bins already around here. So this one has Garth Ennis and John Higgins, and then it's got Rob Williams and Henry Flint doing a story at the back here, which has a real oh shoot, what the heck was his name? What the heck was the artist's name? I think they say it in the... Oh, damn. Completely drawing a blank. Carlos Esquera. That's the name. Carlos Esquera. It's got a real his style to this art here. Like that Rogue Trooper and stuff. It's got that kind of look. and also like stainless steel rat and those kind of things. So yeah, I'm curious about these two. I'll report back next week. I'm sure I'll have them both read by then. So yeah, magazine size as well, if I didn't say it already. And with that, I think that's it. It starred Vincent Castle and Michael Madsen. Really, the Blueberry or Renegade movie. I like Phil Winsdale's work. Awesome. Garth Ennis is my favorite writer ever. Nice to see you dug it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. What else do I got? Nothing. I think that's it. Oh, Colin had his release on Saturday for Colin, who's here in the chat, for Canon number 3, which comes out toot sweet, comes out momentarily. I'm really happy to have contributed to it again. This time around, I was able to get an interview with Mr. Matt Howarth through over email. So that appears in issue number 3. I'm very excited to have my very first kind of written interview. I did do the interview recently on the channel as well too, but this was a little bit different for me. It's a little bit different emailing somebody back and forth with questions, and because of the timeline, I didn't really have a chance to follow up with any follow-up questions for that article. Really wanted to get that in this next issue. It does feel like a conversation, though, that could kind of take off a little more in-depth. He was an incredibly nice guy to give me his time and answer my emails as he was scanning pages and doing art and stuff. So I really appreciate Howarth taking the time for me. Make sure that you pick up issue number 3 of Canon. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in there besides yours truly, but I'm sure it's going to be an amazing issue. So congratulations to Colin again for continuing this. I saw him. He made an appearance in the Fantagraphics Facebook scroll. He was in a photograph there, so that was very cool to see him holding up the magazine. So it's great. It's really, really great. Yeah, I'm really glad that it's still going as well too. Number 3, cool that it keeps going. And hopefully, if there is a number 4, I've got another interview that I've done that'll hopefully make an appearance in number 4 if Canon number 4 ends up happening. If it doesn't, I'll look at putting that out some other way. But I won't talk more about that until I've kind of gone through things. I hesitate to talk too highly about stuff just in case something happens and it doesn't pan out. Thanks very much for tuning in. And, oh, really? I did not know that, Scott Connor. Did you know that Matt Howarth did the artwork in the first version of the Dune Encyclopedia? I had no fucking idea. Okay, everybody. Thanks very much. I did not hand letter this interview. No, I did not. I just did text. I was going to do some reviews and hand letter that, but because these kind of interviews started coming up and the Howarth one seemed like it was going to really pan out, I abandoned doing any hand lettering reviews this issue, and just focused on that. I really wanted to focus on the interviews to make sure that they were solid and typed out properly. So no hand lettering it. It is something I wouldn't mind doing in the future, within reason. It's just the layout portion of doing the stuff is not something that comes naturally. Number 4 will happen for sure. Well, there you go. It's something that doesn't come naturally to me when it comes to laying out a page. So I find that, honestly, a bigger struggle than doing the handwriting. I find doing the layouts, getting the images. Also, I'm doing it like I'm fucking 97 years old,